Smile, be, chat, join for networking.
Thank you. I'm Paula Cohen. My business is Tailory and I help people to put the rocket fuel into their businesses. So I work with people who are running their own businesses. I help them to understand their strengths, but also to overcome the challenges and the things that hold them back in business. And I help people to deal with those things which perhaps were not the reason they came into business in the first place. So I want to talk to you today about one of the biggest challenges that I consistently see for people running their own businesses, and that is sales. It's already kind of a dirty word, isn't it? So not many people tend to go into business because they love sales. Typically people go into business because they're really, really good at a particular thing, or they're incredibly passionate about a particular thing. But here's the big challenge is, if you don't make sales in your business, then you don't have a business. Full stop, end of. Brutal, but that is the truth of the matter. So we all have to be the salespeople in our business, whether we like it or not, or whatever we think about it. We have to do that. We can't make this a hobby. If we genuinely want to make money out of this and make a business, then we have to actually generate some sales. So let's just get a little bit of feedback from you first of all, test the waters. So tell me the first thing that springs to your mind when I say salesperson.
Slimy.
Slimy. Nice. Dodgy car salesman, pushy. Double glazing. What was that one? Cold calling. Fantastic. Did anybody think of anything positive? No. Wowzers. Now, what I would say is I've probably delivered this talk something like 25 times, I think, now. And the responses that you've given me there are pretty consistent. Pushy, I would say, is absolutely categorically the number one response I always get. Estate agents and car salesmen do tend to come in there. Slimy, aggressive, unwelcome are the things I typically hear. So, of course, the big challenge that gives for us is, well, we don't want to be any of those things, do we? In our business, we never want to be perceived as slimy, as unwelcome, as pushy, as aggressive. That would be horrendous, wouldn't it? If anybody thought of us like that, wouldn't that be absolutely horrendous? And yet we've got to make the sale. So there's a bit of a mismatch going on there, isn't there? Has anybody had that really pushy sales experience where somebody has just been totally in your face? Yeah, definitely. Lots of nodding. Doesn't feel very nice, does it? It's yuck. But what happens with that is, because we don't want to be this pushy, slimy salesperson, and we never want to be that person who sells at people, we never want to be that person. What most people do is they're just going to back all the way away. This sales thing's yuck. I'm just going to back all the way away. What I'm going to do is I'm going to deliver an amazing service. I'm going to deliver a fabulous product. I'm going to give phenomenal value, and I'm going to be lovely. And people will come to me because I'm lovely. People will come to me because I'm delivering great value, I'm delivering great service, my product is fabulous. So they're just going to want to come and do business with me, aren't they? Great idea. Really lovely idea, isn't it? But it's not the reality. The simple fact is that we have to push ourselves and our business forward. We've got to be comfortable blowing our own trumpet because nobody else is going to blow it as loud as we can blow it for ourselves. So we have to be confident to do that. So, who here likes being sold to? Pretty rousing. Who likes buying stuff? Ooh, shoes and handbags, makeup, cars, sit on lawnmowers, tickets for the theatre, holidays. We love to buy stuff, don't we? That's the simple answer. We love buying stuff. Buying is a really positive experience. It releases endorphins. It's a happy place. We've got all this good stuff that we've either got now or we've got it coming up. It's a brilliant, wonderful thing, isn't it? It's fab. We love that. So what if you were to change your whole perception of sales in business and think about actually all you're trying to do is give that to people. You're trying to help people make an informed decision that they want to buy from you. What a great place that would be. So you get to win business, your customers get to have that fabulous positive buying experience, and that's a total win-win, isn't it? So my challenge to you would be to become more aware of your own mindset when it comes to sales. Where is the point where you suggest to yourself, if I do that, I'm going to be a little bit too pushy. If I call that person again, I think I'm being too pushy. I think if I actually send them another email, I'm probably spamming them out. I'm really pushing this too hard, because actually that's probably the point where you completely get in your own way. That's the point where you feel, if I push here, I'm going to be totally slimy. But the customer's perception is generally completely different to yours. So we quite often will say, well, actually, I emailed them last week. If I email them again now, maybe I'm just being too pushy. But how many emails do you typically get in a week? Is it a couple? Is it loads? It's loads, isn't it? So that person's actually had loads of emails in the time that you're thinking about. If you're thinking maybe I'll call them, but I called them a few days ago, how many calls have they had in the meantime? It's loads. So when you're thinking, I'm probably being too pushy, the customer, the potential customer, is probably on the brink of forgetting you exist. Rather than actually thinking you're being too pushy, they've forgotten you, and somebody else is probably talking to them more proactively than you. So remember, you've got a great product, you've got a great service, get the pricing right, get your message right, and all you're trying to do is help them make an informed decision to buy from you. And think about it this way, if they need your service, if you have a great service that they absolutely genuinely need and it's going to help them, you may just be doing them a disservice if you don't give them the opportunity to buy. So I would recommend taking a look at the last 10 people that you have spoken to who you thought were going to become a customer and they didn't become a customer. The ones where you really thought, yeah, this is going great. You know, we've got a great connection here. They're making all the right noises. They're asking the right questions. I know price isn't an issue. This is a done deal. And then somehow they don't become a customer. Because my challenge to you would be, there is a point there will be a trend. If you look at where is the point in the process that typically drops off, that's the point where you're telling yourself you're being too pushy and you're backing away. So you're very probably losing sales because you're backing away. When people say to you things like, I haven't had time to read that email, I've been a bit too busy, we very often take that as they're not interested. But all they've told you is I'm too busy. So if somebody says that they're too busy, blimey, they might just be too busy. So don't take that as a no. Take that as a, they've been too busy. I'll call them again next week. So that would be my challenge to you. Think through those last few people who nearly became customers and have a look at what you can identify as the trend. What's the point where they typically drop it out and they don't become a customer for you? So here are some ways that you can become more confident about sales and feel that it is more natural to you without ever feeling that you are being pushy, slimy or aggressive. And the most crucial thing about all of it is to create yourself a process, to create a system, a series of steps so that you know exactly what happens next. And it can be as simple as, if you have a great conversation with somebody at a networking meeting and they've given you some really positive signals, if you've had that conversation that says, yeah, let's have a coffee and talk about that a bit more. I'd really love to know more about what you do. What is your follow-up? Is that by email? Is that by phone call? Is that by Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever that is? I would always recommend that should be by telephone if you really want to build a connection, because, you know, talking to people is way more of a connection builder than anything that's in a text format. But it may be that for some particular reason email works much better for you. So what a process is actually about is finding you at your very best and then repeating that time after time so you become confident and you become comfortable. But it's also about getting rid of that, should I ring them again? Should I not ring them again? Should I email them? Should I text them? I'm not sure what to do. And that whole thing of should I, shouldn't I, maybe tomorrow, maybe next week, now I'm not sure. Do you know what, I've left it so long I'm really embarrassed to ring them, I'll just not do it anymore at all. So a process is about identifying you at your very best and then repeating that. So what that allows you to do is it allows you to raise your confidence because it's something that becomes very familiar. It allows you also to actually just look more professional, because when you're really consistent with that, rather than being spammy or pushy, you're very probably appearing really organised and really professional. So think about what those perfect steps would be for you. And if everybody will have a different process, and it depends on the complexity of your product or your service. So some people, my process, for instance, is generally quite long. It would be over a couple of weeks, and there are things like a questionnaire involved in my process, and there'll be probably a phone call, maybe a 10-15 minute phone call before a meeting. And there's a lot of getting to know each other before the meeting. That works great for me. For some people, that might be total overkill if you're more of a sort of low price, easy purchase option. So just think about the stuff that really works well for you. So think about what your steps would be. Now, here's a suggestion that usually sends people running for the hills, is to develop yourself some scripts. Now, when I say that, people normally think I'm talking about computer says no scripts. You know, when you've had those conversations with people on the telephone and you can actually tell that they're just reading from a computer and there's no rapport there whatsoever, is it? It feels horrible, doesn't it? It doesn't feel personal. It doesn't feel genuine. There's no real service. So categorically, that is not what I am talking about when I talk about a script. But a script, I'm coming back to it again, is you at your very best. A script might be 3 bullet points. But if you think about each step in your process where a crucial conversation takes place, then each of those crucial conversations should have a script to it. So you make absolutely sure that you are delivering your best every single time. So it might be that there's specific information you want to get across during that conversation. There may be specific questions you need to ask, so you've got the right information. You may need to specifically outline the next step in the process. So it's you at your very best. And like I say, it may just be bullet points. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be word for word. It doesn't have to be long and detailed and onerous. And it definitely doesn't have to be computer says no. So you might think about things like, I have a little bit of a script for the start of a meeting. When it's somebody who's really expressed interest in working with me, then I'm always going to outline exactly how that meeting is going to run. And I'm going to tell them right up front that if we both think that us working together is the right thing to do, then I'll talk to them at the end of the meeting about how we could do that, so they know it's coming. But that's exactly the type of thing where it's easy to say, God, that's a bit salesy, isn't it? But actually, it's just an introduction. I'm not talking about them there and then I'm going to sell to you later on. It's really just an introduction. But it's also at that point, you're taking away is this a sales meeting? Isn't this a sales meeting? What is this meeting about? What is it not about? You get rid of all that uncertainty. And yet again, you're just putting yourself on a very professional footing. You are starting that meeting looking professional, looking organised, looking systematic. These are all really great tools to help them make an informed decision to buy from you, because they love to buy. You might have some documentation within that process of yours. So I mentioned that part of my process is that I send people a questionnaire. It's a pretty short questionnaire, it's a couple of pages, but they're going to give me some really crucial information about their business, but actually also gets them to think about where their challenges are and what they want to pick my brains about at the meeting as well. So it's a win-win situation. It's helping them to think through how they get the best out of me at that meeting. And I'm checking that if there's anything crucial I need to know, who are the decision makers in the business, for instance, that I don't go and spend 2 hours with somebody and then find out they've got to go and talk to their business partner afterwards, because that's not a great use of anybody's time. But documentation might also include things like case studies, things like testimonials. So in a sales kind of environment, anything we say about ourselves is always open to challenge. Are they being honest with me? Are they giving me a bit of a sales pitch? But anything that other people say about us always has really significant credibility. So think about really satisfied customers that you have worked with in the past who would be very happy to either provide you with a testimonial. Now, actually, do you know what? You've probably got pages of these things on your LinkedIn profile already. You've probably got tons of them if you go back through emails, throwaway comments on Facebook, that kind of stuff of clients that have been over the moon of what you've done. You've probably got tons of those. So imagine if you just put those into a nice little page and you sent that to somebody before you actually had a meeting with them. They're going to be really excited by that. It's all very positive stuff that you're sharing. So documentation is one of the things to think about, and whether there's a way that you can plant extra seeds before you see them and raise the professionalism of what you do. Now, one more thing to think about in your process, and this is kind of gold dust, and it's a really secret hidden tool that's fabulously powerful, and it's the art of questions. So questions do two things for you. The first one, ironically, is they put the onus on the customer to do all the talking. So you don't have to be an amazingly slick, professional salesperson who's got all the patter and all the presentation. You're actually just getting the customer to do all the talking. So the pressure is off you. So that's a great part of the tool. But what questions also do is they show a really genuine interest in the customer. Because at the end of the day, they're not really choosing to buy from you because of you. They're buying for them. So they want to know that you are genuinely interested in them and in their needs. And asking lots of questions is a great way to do that. But the hidden power in questions as well is they give you the opportunity to demonstrate your credibility and your expertise in a way that a lot of people miss. So to give you a really super simple example, let's say what you actually do is you sell tyres. So let's say you need a couple of tyres for the car. You're going to call Renee's Roadster Tyres, and Renee's going to ask you what kind of car is it, what size are the tyres. Cracking, they're 75 quid. Then you call down the road and you call Allison's Auto Tyres. I'm doing well today. If I say so myself. Allison's Auto Tyres, and Allison says, what kind of car do you drive? What size are the tyres? And what kind of driving do you do? Is it usually motorway? Is it city driving? Is it country lanes? Do you carry a lot of stuff in the car, or is it normally just you? Do you usually have other passengers in the car? Do you usually have animals in the car? What kind of speed do you drive at? How many miles do you do? And she's going to say, okay, so these are the ones you need, and they're 85 quid. So which tyres are you going to buy? Renee's at 75 or Allison's at 85? Allison's.
I would have asked all those questions.
So actually, the questions have said, I'm really confident I'm getting what I need. They have told me they're interested in me. They have shown me their expertise. I am confident I'm getting the right product. So that's the power of questions as well. So that is something that you could do. If you were to spend 30 minutes, 60 minutes thinking about what great questions can I ask that I don't think my competitors are asking, it's a cracking way to really differentiate yourself even from other people out there doing similar but nowhere near as good as you. So I'm going to draw to a close with 3 final tips. These are Coach Cohen's top tips when it comes to increasing your sales. And number 1 is if you head off and read any kind of sales book, if you go and Google anything to do with developing your sales skills, there's one consistent factor that you will find in there, and that is that all the statisticians will tell you that typically 64% of people will never ask for the sale. They just expect the customer to ask, how do we go ahead? So you know when you get to the end of the meeting and you think it's all gone absolutely brilliantly, you're kind of pausing and waiting for them to give you the signal. Just ask if they want to go ahead. And again, this does not have to be salesy. It does not have to be pushy. So my question at that point of a meeting is, how does that fit with what you had in mind? And if they're not sure, they'll tell me that and we get the chance to talk a little bit further. So it's an open question, but I'm going to get to know exactly where they are. If they're really excited, then they're going to say to me, that one, I love that, let's do it. So there's not a pushy question though, is it? But it's a question that's very natural to me. It's a question that, you know, I've probably used now for 8 years, so it totally rolls off the tongue. And I'm never leaving a meeting without asking that question, even if I don't think they're interested, because you know what, I might have read them wrong. So I'm never leaving a meeting without asking that question, but it totally rolls off my tongue. That's me at my best, and I'm always going to give them that opportunity to buy if they're ready. So never assume that you know whether they're ready or not. Don't take that opportunity away from them. Give them the opportunity by having your own really clear question and never ever leaving that meeting without asking that question. My second tip is make sure you follow up. Now, I've touched on this quite a lot already, but this is the classic element of, am I being too pushy? Am I trying too hard? Well, they've said they haven't had time, so maybe they're just not interested. The simple answer is, if somebody hasn't said no, then they haven't said no. Until somebody says no, then you have got the right to follow up with them. And the thing is, in this day and age, there's a million different ways that you can follow up with them. We have Facebook, Messenger, you've got a million different tools out there. There are articles left, right and centre where you could just go and find a great article that you know is very relevant to them and go and send them an article. So it doesn't have to be a, do you want to buy, do you want to buy, do you want to buy, do you want to buy? Follow-up doesn't have to be that pushy element. Follow-up is just keeping in touch. It is the being lovely bit. It's just continually building that relationship and letting them know that you are still there, and occasionally asking them the question, do you want to have another chat about the possibility of us working together? Oh, God. And then my very final tip is to measure what you do. So if you make a change, if for instance you start to send people a page of testimonials or something like that, measure what difference that makes. Does that mean that more of those meetings are turning into sales? Keep track of that information so that you know exactly what works, and that gives you the ability to constantly improve and constantly develop within your business. It gives you the ability to be sure that what you're trying is actually delivering results. So quick recap. Never leave that meeting unless you have asked for the sale. Always, always, always follow up until they say no, and make sure you measure what you do so you know what's truly working. But remember, all you're looking to do is give people the opportunity to make an informed decision to buy from you, because people love to buy. Thank you.
Smile, be chat, join for networking.